found themselves a little bit lost after Beirut was closed during the war. So I opened this gallery and I discovered really fantastic artists that were mainly written about in Arabic. There was a lot of, I mean, these were really icons. Everybody loved them in the region. There were a lot of publications, but nothing was in foreign languages. And this is where I decided somehow that we should bring in some international art critics to be interested in the art scene. Hence my first collaboration with Sylvia Neff on a book called À la recherche d'une modernité arabe, which was shedding light a bit on those fantastic artists of the Arab world that worked in the second half of the 20th century. But in fact, I was basically interested in the local art scene in Beirut, and the international art scene only came pretty much in the mid-90s when I discovered the Hirshhorn. I went to the United States and discovered this amazing museum of sculptures, but I was a bit dismayed why our big Salwa Rawdash was not displayed in the collection.
The picture here.
Which
Yes.
picture? Yes, which picture?
Now that you are showing, and the next one also, Salwa Radwash Air. No, the previous one, sorry, previous, no, before, if you go back, and
Yeah.
no, voila.
Okay.
After,
Yeah.
and voila,
Yes,
these
yes.
two, these are Salwa Radwash Air.
Anyway, and after visiting the Hirshhorn, I decided to meet the director, then Richard Kochalek, and I asked him why Salwa was not present in the collection of the Hirshhorn. So he told me in which museum I can discover her work. I said, we don't have museums. He said, okay, in which collections? Does she have a monograph? Does she have a website? And it's only then that I discovered that while we had fantastic artists, we did not really do the necessary work to make it available for the international art scene, which we must also admit that before the 90s, the Euro-American Western-centric, European-American Western-centric art scene was not really interested in the periphery. But after the 90s, with the development of the BRIC, they started discovering a little bit that the art scenes of Brazil, Mexico, India, China, and the Arab world. And so I came back to Lebanon and started working on the monography with Salwa Rawdash Air, and that was a little bit the snowball that led to her solo show at the Tate, and later on Salwa being acquired by most of the international museums. But you see, and here the difference between the different galleries, I was not personally interested in the international market per se. I was personally more interested in developing and transcending the local art scene in Beirut to be compliant with international standards. I really was hoping that instead of going to the West, why not doing an infrastructure in Beirut that is compliant with all international standards. Hence, I had to move from my small proximity gallery that I love, but that was too small to be able to do an exhibition that would be considered of high quality. So I opened my White Cube in 2016, and while always being interested in defending our history, I must say that in the gallery, my program is basically focused on the artists of the region. We have some amazing emerging artists who are more interested in developing a language that is questioning and communicating with the people of the region more than trying to export themselves to an international audience. So that also opens the discussion about the relationship between the local, the global, the glocal. I mean, it's fantastic. It's always fantastic to gain the international recognition, but if the price of gaining international recognition is a little bit losing your own relationship with your people and your market, it is here where we play. My project is basically to to empower local artists and address and empower a local audience and a local academia and a local foundations and bits and pieces. We started having this. I mean, now you will be discussing with Basel, but then this is a collection that has nothing to envy to any first quality top international collection anywhere in the world.
Can we go 1 second, please, to the image 19? Because I would like to talk about Saleh, about something that was very interesting. 19, which is Babel. Babel.
Is it
after? Again, after this one, and again one more. Voilà, Babel. No, the previous one. One. Don't go too fast, Anne-Pierre. Previous. Voilà.
Yes,
Babel.
yes.
Babel is one of the artists of Saleh, who is most probably the most known in the region as a Lebanese contemporary artist, not at all known in Europe and the States. You have to know that in 2015, Babel was acquired for $485,000 US at Christie's Dubai. And yet, what I love, that Saleh didn't follow this craziness with the prices going up, etc. He protected his art. He said, we're going to keep on the prices, follow on our track, and not getting this artist producing and selling for hilarious prices. But would you talk about your politic regarding your artist, Saleh, and what happened there?
Well, Ayman Baalbaki is probably one of our most interesting artists, whether in his technique, whether in his mind, whether in his approach to art. And in fact, of course, there was a lot of speculation around him because his work pleases a lot of people, and it has this sexiness that makes it really very desirable for different people from around the world. But for me, the question of the over-commodification of and the speculation about a young artist is extremely dangerous because, as I said a little bit earlier, Ayman is extremely important for our art scene, and having him become inaccessible for the local art scene because he followed an international career. Of course, we all want this, but it's very sensible, particularly for cities like Beirut, where the prices are extremely different from what could be. And my policy is really to try to promote this artist in this instance in institutions. And this is what happened after 2015. Instead of feeding the market with artworks by Ayman for speculators and flippers, I decided that I will only sell Ayman to collectors who are very serious about acquiring his work, liking his work, wanting to defend his work. And by the way, he is in the Carmignac Foundation, and Eduardo Carmignac really likes his work. So this is what I tried, in fact, to defend, keep this artist, this magnificent artist, out of the speculative circles.
Mm-hmm. So then we're going to talk about one last artist. If you can go down slowly, Huguette Callan is very known, of course. again, one who is very important but not known in, these are all of these artists. I would have loved to talk about them, but go down again. Here, stop. No, go back one picture, please, Anne-Pierre. Please, thank you. This is an Iraqi artist who has his studio in Lebanon. He has a very difficult work because he talks about, he accuses the army, the hardship of being in the army in Iraq, and yet he was representing Iraq at the Biennale of Venice in 2019. This was the last exhibition of Saleh everything closed. Could you talk a little bit about Serwan, please, Saleh? His name is Serwan.
Serwan Baran, another outstanding painters from Iraq based in Beirut, which represented Iraq in the last biennial. And in fact, when I met Serwan, who used to be an ex-soldier, I was asking him, what is your real desire? He said, always people are asking me to paint glorious, fantastic, the fantastic, the glorious. But through my life, what I really wanted to paint is the defeat, is the humiliation, is the despair that we are living in this part of the Middle East. And I told him, look, this is exactly what you should be painting. Please, go ahead and express yourself at max. And he said, but these are very tough works. Who is going to buy them? And I remember telling him, this is my problem, not your problem. Go and paint. And the truth, he came up with an unbelievable show. I hope people will Google Serwan and discover this unbelievable painter who deserves to be in museums like the Louvre with his epic paintings.
Yeah, he has beautiful drawings. Écoute, Saleh, thank you so much. Thank you for participating. It's like always amazing to hear you talking. I could hear you for hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
So now we're going to get to our Dalloul. Basel Dalloul that I've met in 2018. We were together at the BAF selection committee before I became the artistic director. And Basel is quite a character. And I was amazed. When I went to see his collection, I was amazed because it was in an unexpected place, like 4 apartments in a building of the 1990s, 450 square meters, and everything is displayed. All the collection is displayed. So now, Anne-Pierre, while Basel is talking, will show you some of the rooms of this collection. I would love Basel to tell us about his mission and his collection, asking him whether he loan or show his collection in other museum, or he collaborate with other institutions. Of course, how he position his foundations as a research institute, creating exhibition, educational program, archiving, etc., which is a lot. I mean, again, it's like a public institution. And how Basel, like Saleh will tell us later on, how he sees the future of the art scene in Lebanon regarding what's the crisis and the catastrophe we are dealing with now. Voilà. Please, Basel.
Okay, so you asked me the first question, I think if I parse the question out nicely, is the origin of the collection obviously is my parents, my mom and dad, over 50 years put this collection together. And then in the last 10 years, my father put it into high gear because he wanted to leave something behind. He was getting in touch, I suppose, with his mortality. My mother passed away a few years ago, so she's already dealt with that part of life. But my dad wanted to leave something behind for young generations, so that they understand that they come from a culture which is rich, which we do, come from a culture which is rich. Unfortunately, most people in this part of the world don't know that. Even people in Lebanon, when they come and see the foundation, they're in disbelief that we have this much art in the Arab world, and fantastic art, actually, not shit art. And so my dad came to me a few years ago and said, listen, we have this fantastic collection. We need to do something with it. It's time for us to institutionalize it. So he gave me my marching orders were to do precisely that. And that's what we've been working on for the past 4 years. Now, the collection is massive. Just to correct something that Joanna said, on the 4 floors that we actually display art, we only display about 8% of what we have in the collection. There's no way we can display the entire thing.
I was so impressed. My mistake.
So no. There's no way. It's only 8% that we show at any given time. Now, if you go to dafbeirut.org, our newly launched website, you can see the whole collection. Well, most of it. We upload into that site information almost on a daily basis. And there's a true archive. There will be a true archive for every artist we actually have in the collection. Now, the reason why it's not complete yet, because we've been working on the site for the past 2 years. In fact, it's been on a stage server for about a year. But when COVID came around, all my friends asked me to, can you launch your site? Can you launch your site? And I made a decision with our staff that we would go ahead and do that. But that means that the onus is on us now to do these daily uploads, and we've been working remotely from home. We actually decided to do that a week before the lockdown in Beirut. And we're geared towards that. We work online quite a bit. We use technology quite a bit in what we do, and that's because I'm a technologist. My background is in technology. I happen to love art. I've been collecting art since I was 16 years old, I think. I've lived around art and artists all my life, and so my mission was to share this with everyone, and this is what we do. Our mission is simply to introduce and educate both local and international audiences about Arab art, about how fantastic and wonderful it is. And because during the archiving process and the cataloging process that took us about 1.5 years, and this was something myself and Fadia, our director, spearheaded. One of the things that we found was there are very few references. In fact, there were no references for Arab artists out there. There were lots of publications, but we found even in the publications, there were a lot of omissions, there were mistakes, there were false statements being made. And when we asked some of these artists, why is that? Why, when we verify the information and find out something that was printed in a book is false, why did they print this falsehood? And they look at us and they say, the problem is we don't have any of this information. We didn't have references. We had holes in the timeline, so we made it up. I'm like, seriously? You made this up? And these are academicians that are telling us this. So, another mission then became, okay, we need to create a proper reference for these artists, and we need to do some research. Now, my mandate to my staff is, unless you can verify a fact in 3 sources, don't print it, don't publish it, and don't write it. So we're in fact very, very anal about that. And that's something that I've been insisting on, because at the end of the day, we want the general public to enjoy it. We want people to learn about these fantastic artists, and we want academicians and students to be able to access the full archive, not the one that's on the web, and be able to write a PhD dissertation. And we actually have Fadia is here with us. I think we have 7 or 8 currently working with us, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we do place an emphasis on research, and the reason really is necessity, because it really doesn't exist. So the second part of the question, I think, is, do we collaborate with museums? And the answer is absolutely. We collaborate with museums all over the world. We loan pieces to museums all over the world, both internationally and locally. We work with other foundations as well. So yeah, We're all about promoting it and pushing it out. This is not a collection that we will hide between closed walls and nobody will ever see it again. On the contrary, it's published on the internet right now for everybody to see. We're publishing more information about Arab artists and the art that's coming up. We'll have blurbs on all the pieces, but that's a whole nother project. But we want people to come to the site and be able to find some meaty information about them. They'll be able to go and look at multiple sources. You'll be able to go and see videos. And sometimes a lot of these dead artists that we have in the collection have fantastic interviews, video interviews that we've published on this site. So you can actually go and really intimately get to know these artists. And that's important to me too, because one of the things both my father, my mother, bless her soul when she was around, and myself do is make it a point to meet the artists in the collection. So a lot of these dead artists were friends of my dad's and mom's actually. And most of the living artists have either visited us at the foundation or we visited them at their locations. So we have a very, very intimate relationship with the artists that we have in the collection, and we have an intimate relationship with the gallerists that we go to find these. Saleh would be one of them actually. And so we do have a symbiotic relationship with the artists. My father tends to prefer going to auction houses. I don't particularly care for them, but he does. And I forget what the last part of the question was.
No, Basel. As we,
yes,
we have Laure who has to talk after you. Would you tell us how do you see, I mean, in a short sentence or whatever, well, as you feel like it, how do you see things going on? Because I mean, the situation is really terrible in Lebanon. You have your foundation there. I know that the site is important, so the people will keep on going and consulting the site. But how do you see things evolving? Because again, after the war, which was a civil war, 75, 1990, here we are hitting again the bottom. So what
Listen,
do you?
Lebanon, unfortunately, is in the abyss right now. So the future for artists, the good established artist will never have a problem. I've been asked this question before, and they will survive. It's the fairly unknown or younger artists that are going to have serious problems. I mean, money is tight in Lebanon. People are going hungry. 60% of the population is most likely unemployed at this point. There have been hundreds of restaurant and bar closures, and they're closed permanently. There are hotels closing down left, right, and sideways. The economy in the world is in a shambles. So imagine a country that's already in that situation pre-COVID and pre-revolution, how it is right now. It's a hot mess. The outlook in Lebanon, well, look, we're a very resilient people. I've never seen anyone adapt as quickly as the Lebanese. In most of Europe and the United States, you go to supermarkets and pharmacies and there are shortages of all sorts of things. You go into a pharmacy or store here and nothing is in short supply. You can find anything and everything you want in Lebanon, if you have the money for it, of course. So it's a kind of, it's a very strange place to be in, let's put it that way.
All over the world, but I mean, in Lebanon even more, thank God that we have this resilience. So sorry, I have to end our conversation, and now we will talk with Laure Dedeville, the founder of the Beirut Art Fair, which existed for 10 years. Laure is the best person to talk about the market, the evolution of the collectors, the prices they came to spend and how did it shift. And mainly, how does she see Beirut Art Fair with this turmoil going on?
Hello. So yes, I would like to talk about what I've noticed since the last 20 years. And the market, the art market in Lebanon is in a very interesting revolution. I will start by the years 2000 and 2010. At that time, Lebanon had some collectors, but most of them were between 50 years old and older. we couldn't really find some young art collector as we have now. The art collector were more interesting in recognized artists and with artists with an established value. Also, Lebanon is a dynamic period at that time because the country was in reconstruction. So you could feel really a dynamism in the country. And the collector had many exposed to international art are showing growing in parallel for regional art. I mean, at that time, they would prefer to buy some artists international to be sure that if something happened, they could always sell it back. For them, it was a real recognition. I would like to show you the photo one. It's photo 1, 2, and 3. It's very interesting. When I started doing the art fair in Lebanon in 1998, for example, Paul Guiragossian, a large painting of him, was sold in Artuel at that time between $6,000 and $10,000. Now it's between $30,000 and $400,000. On the photo number 2, it is Saliba Doueri, for example. We used to in the fair between $3,000 and $6,000. Now it's between $30,000 and $200,000. For Yvette Ashkar, photo 3, and Huguette Callan, photo 4, it was a bit the same. I mean, at that time, the Lebanese artists were not, they were not as known as they are now. But 3 important things came to Lebanon in the year 2000. It was, first of all, it was the launching of the first auction in Lebanese artists. It's the photo number 5 at that time. You had also the launching of Artuel. Artuel was the first art fair in Lebanon. And you had also Sharjah Biennale. And that period changed a lot things in Lebanon. And people were very happy to come and to attend the fair and to discover their artists. Then in 2005, something important happened in the region because we had the assassination in 2005 of the prime minister in Lebanon. At that time, Lebanon was in a completely reconstruction, the street, everything. Then the market stopped and everything stopped in Lebanon. We couldn't work anymore. For UAE, rushes in the break of and 4 public and private initiatives allow them to assert themselves internationally. First of all, launch of Art Dubai. Second, launch of Art Paris Abu Dhabi, today called Abu Dhabi Art Fair, photos 6 and 7. And we had also the launch of Christie Dubai, signature of the Louvre Abu Dhabi. That gave an important push in the region. And but what I think it's because they wanted to show that they're very interested in art, etc. I can feel that the market was a little bit artificial.
Hey, ça va, je suis en train de regarder un Joe qui fait un truc sur...
Then after 5 years of interruption, then in 2010, Artuel exhibition is reborn, and Beirut came with the name of Beirut Art, which is a strong international ambition, and as well museum dimension, equivalent to other art fair. In fact, we created each year some non-profit space about the Lebanon, about the modernity in Lebanon, and another section for young contemporary artists called Revealing. That's the photo 8. Then this coincides also with an important new generation of Lebanese coming from outside, and they wanted to go back to their country and to see and to promote their country. This young generation was very more cultivate because they used to visit many art fairs, many museums, galleries. They are international. They are now able to collect arts, and in this domain, many managing director, these people at that time wanted to come back to their origin and to discover who they are. Then the value of the modernity has been reinforced because they wanted to discover who are we and where do we come from. And also they were interested by the new generation. So local artists start to come up. And they start to get interested by Arabs' identity and to see what's happening in Levant, but also in the Gulf country. In this period, it was the actor of Beirut creation. At that time, many, as Joanna and Basel and Saleh said, that at that time, many private institutions and museum and private, it is a photo number 9. Yes, this is it. Many institutions open. So it was amazing to see that the young generation can go everywhere to discover art and to talk, and then many talks happen. I mean, in Beirut, it's amazing. You cannot stay alone one day. Every night you have an event. Also, Lebanon is a country of freedom and expression. So you can exhibit many artists, and the artist you want to exhibit. We can see that, for example, in the collection of Basel Dalloul, and we can see that also in the gallery of Saleh Barakat, because he's exhibiting strong art also. So this is important to show that in the region, the only country that is open to freedom is Lebanon. Then, because the Arab Spring starts, photo 10 and 11, the effervescence attract many institutions, I mean, foreigners institution, collector, press, and media. And they really wanted to see what's happening in this part of the world. And at that time also start in an important museum in the world, a creation of Middle East and North Africa department. Also, many people came to Middle East, also to Lebanon, but to other countries, and also in the Gulf country, to discover the institution and to meet the art collector. Then major international gallery in Europe start to exhibit Lebanese and regional artists in these countries. Then I can see that in 10 years, Beirut Art Fair has been important because in 2000, photo 12, picture 12, in 2010, we start with 30 galleries and 3,500 visitors. But in 2019, last year, we had 60 galleries and 36,000 visitors. And about the sales, to compare to 2010, the transaction has been multiplied by 5, which is important. Then the local market is established. It exists and it is in development and has been accelerating these 3 past years because the country was at the fashion. It was really fashion to come to Beirut. Now I would like to go on photo 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Oh my God. Laure, yeah, maybe if it's okay for you to go a bit quicker on the last pictures, because I want to leave a little time for for questions and answers if some of them you have. Okay.
So you can go quickly on those photos and to continue until 2022. So it means that the fair has been developed a lot, and because Joanna came also, and she's been very strict with the selection, also with the art collector, with the buzz, but also all the country itself participate to animate the country in terms of art. Then 3 years ago, open for the photo 20, 21 and 20.
I don't have any more photos actually.
Was the first edition of the Beirut Design Fair that gave an important push to the market and also regionally. Okay, so now with what's happening in Lebanon, as we say, first of all, we've been very lucky as Beirut Art Fair because 2 weeks after start the revolution in Beirut. But what we can see that Lebanon has always been a country to be able to come up and to be stronger than the event. I'm sure many artists will think about this and would like to talk about liberté, because it's very important. Lebanese are not people that say, okay, it's finished, khalas, it's finished anymore. No, no, I don't trust in that. So what I think now as Beirut Art Fair, what we would like to do and what we are working on, it's to develop, I mean, next year, this year, 2020, of course, we cannot have Beirut Art Fair as it is, but we are developing Beirut Art Scene, which is a platform to promote Lebanese artists, Photo 23, to promote Lebanese artists and also artists from the region all around the world. It means Paris, it will be London, it will be New York, just before coming back to Beirut strongly. This is it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, so yes, thank you all of you for this these amazing presentations. I do have a question here from Maria Sukar. It's a question for Basel. As your collection in an exhaustive one, have you ever considered taking curated or themed selections outside of Lebanon for other audiences to enjoy?
Le son.
Oui, mais alors attends.
Basel, mets le son.
Basel!
Okay. I got it. I'm new to this too, this whole Zoom world. All right. No. Yes. The answer to the question is absolutely. We have. When we were going through the collection, we have probably around 60 themes we can produce right now, based on the collection. So, absolutely, we will be pushing these things out into the world. We will be showing the works in Europe and the United States, in the Far East, in the Middle East. And several other places. So the short answer to your question,
it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. I mean,
it's a work in progress. I mean, we do loan quite a few pieces out. We have loans out almost all the time, but we haven't curated something ourselves. But internally, when we've been going through the collection, it becomes very apparent, oh, we can do one based on this, we can do one based on this, we can do one based on that, we can do one based on, and then you can do all the genres, the abstraction, the figuration, the surrealism, you name it, we got it. With a collection this massive, there's a lot you can do with it, absolutely, and we do plan on doing that. Now, unfortunately, we had a trifecta, as we call it, back in the United States. We had the bad economic situation in Lebanon to begin with. Then we had the revolution as a result of that. And now we have COVID. So now we're really, if we were a little screwed before and then really screwed, now we're extremely screwed.
I might come and see you, Basel. Wait.
Ya ahla wa sahla.
Thank you so much for your answer. And in the meantime, we would be very happy to welcome you in London as soon as we are ending this confinement to present more of the collection with documented pictures. And so
I would love to.
A platform to develop this for you. Another question for Saleh this time. Saleh, I hope you can hear us. Salwa Rauda Shuker was the first Middle Eastern artist to have a retrospective at Tate. Do you think we all witnessed another major retrospective of another Middle Eastern artist soon? First of all, Saleh, I would like to thank you for your presentation before of the regional scene and the very important role you have in you know in being there for all these artists of all the different generations, including, you know, the regional scene of Lebanon and young artists as well. But yes, for the answer at the retrospective at Tate, yes.
Yeah. Just to answer you, in fact,
it's a question from Maria Suka, and
okay.
And apparently you're friends, and she's
Yes, hi Maria. Actually, in 2014, I showed Huguette Galland at Frieze Modern, and in fact, it was another snowball, and she was supposed to open her new exhibition at the Drawing Center in New York, which I consider to be another major achievement, because the Drawing Center is probably one of the most sophisticated institution that specializes in drawings. And she was about to have her exhibition at the Drawing Center right now in May, but it has been postponed and rescheduled till 2021. So actually, yes, I think there will be more and more exhibitions, but given the economic situation and the crash of the markets, it will take probably longer time, but it's just something that started and will go on and on and on, hopefully.
Ah, yes.
Sorry, may I answer to Shafi Abu showed at Tate Modern, Etel Adnan showed at the Biennale of the Whitney, Simone Fatal is showing in the Kunsthal Bergen and the MoMA PS1. I mean, of course, all these regional artists are showing and being by curators. From Hans Ulrich Sobricht is very supportive of Etal Adnan, to let you know. But I mean, a lot of artists, Marwan Shmami was shown at the Tate and acquired one of his pieces. So yes, of course, all these artists are shown and will be shown, because I mean, beyond the fact that are regional, at one point when you are a good artist, you're just a good artist. And yes, you're gonna have an exposure. I mean, I'm sorry to intervene, but voilà. It was
Maria, yeah, yes, but maybe you can. Yes.
Yeah, Aurélia, bonjour, ça va?
Elle est partie.
Non, elle est là.
Salah. Okay, sorry. What I wanted to say was what Salwa did was a breakthrough, because she had a whole exhibition for her. So it wasn't separate pieces that were exhibited at the Tate. So it was a major retrospective. You would walk to Tate, you would have the whole opening of Tate with a huge poster devoted to her. It was just like they did with Andy Warhol recently, a major retrospective exhibition, very exhaustive. They carried, I was part of that process. That's why this is what I'm talking about. I am on the acquisition committees of Tate, the Middle Eastern acquisition. And yes, we have a huge amount of works by Middle Eastern artists. But to be able to do what Saleh did with Salwa, as in bring the works from when she was young till the end, and a series of paintings, sculptures, assemblage, everything, and to put in several rooms at the Tate was something we have never witnessed before. That was my question to Saleh.
Maria, the Drawing Center show for Huguette Galland is a solo show.
As well. Thank you.
But it would have been really a major show in a really very, very sophisticated institution anymore.
Thank you, Saleh.
Thank you. Yes. So, well, if any of you have questions, you tell me. But in the meantime, I wanted again to thank Joanna for being here today, for such a big work, for such a big production of images. There is a lot to learn, to discover on the regional scene, on the international scene. There is, and as I said before, we will organize a trip to Beirut as soon as it's possible to discover all the art galleries and the art collection. Thank you, Basel Dalloul, for being here, and we will be very happy to organize a platform of all of this very, very rich collection. Thank you also, Saleh, for it was fantastic to see you in Beirut 10 years ago, but I will come soon, and hope you come to London soon. And thank you, Laure d'Hauteville, for you know, how long have you been living in Beirut, Laure?
28 years.
28 years in Beirut. So I think that there was a lot of demand for this talk. We were 51 all over the world, and Marc Potier was in Brazil. Yes, Alexandra is in Buenos Aires. 3 of you are in Beirut. A lot are in Brussels, Paris, France, and also Israel. So this is what is great, is these webinars is bringing us together. We can still learn a lot. We can travel in time. It's wonderful to just have our mind on artists and art and things are still going on. There is an actual life waiting for us, artistic life, and that was a very rich talk, and I probably will organize a second part if you agree, Joanna.
I would love to, because there is a lot missing. You made me take off so many things.
There is a lot missing, I know, and now I'm glad I made you take some off, because it could take half a day, which is great. It's great because it's raining in London today, so you know, lockdown or not, it's the best way of spending the time with all of you. So,
and Pierre, the only thing I want to insist on is what Basel said and Saleh said. Their work is producing really an attention from the museum, the galleries. I mean, Lima showed a lot of, showed many exhibitions. Huguette Calan, Etel Adnan. I mean, they are shown in different countries. So yes, Lebanon is in turmoil, but I think these artists will keep on showing. I mean, we didn't talk about Joanna Hajitoma Khalil Jrej, who won the 2017 Marcel Duchamp Prize. They are showing everywhere. Yes, it's still very active.
Yes, I think it would be great. Yeah, it would be great to organize a talk also with the Joanna Hajitomas.
I would love to do that.
Yes, because they are very important artists, and they need to be discovered more internationally. Yes, absolutely. So thank you again to all, and it's been a real pleasure to be with you today.
Thanks.
Have a great evening. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.